If you've priced out a whole home remodel in DFW lately, you were probably shocked by the price. I'm Brandon, and I'm Masterpiece Construction. We do high-end remodels here in North Texas. So if you've priced these out, you know it's very expensive, and I honestly don't blame you for being shocked by the price. But there's a lot that goes into these remodels, and there's some things I like to tell you about that I think will help make this make a lot more sense. So there's certain things here in DFW that kind of drive it. And so part of that is labor costs. We're in a metropolitan area. The cost of living is a little higher than it would be in like rural areas. The labor costs are always a little bit higher. And then you got the issue of permitting, and each municipality is different, but oftentimes these municipalities have pretty high requirements as far as permitting goes, especially in whole home remodels when structural changes are coming. There's also inspections that have to occur. Some of the cities charge for the inspections, some of them don't. It just kind of varies, but all those little things kind of add up to some higher costs there. And then also here in North Texas, as many of you know, we have expanding soil conditions constantly, and this can actually make things worse as well, because sometimes we'll be dealing with foundation issues and those sort of things. One of the important distinctions is a whole home remodel versus strictly cosmetic updates. So whole home remodels would be ones where layouts changing, things are being moved around, whether it's just plumbing being moved from one side to another, or maybe we're knocking walls down, we're opening them up, maybe we're adding walls, maybe we're adding rooms altogether, but all within the confines of a home. So often these look like bare stud walls with new framing or modified framing. Also, when we're talking about these, they could be more cosmetic in nature, and that's a little bit different story. And that's really just driven more by the selections that are made rather than the specific scope of work. So people always kind of ask me, they're like, okay, why is remodeling so high when I can just go build a home? And there's something to be said for that. But what we're seeing out there is that the remodeling costs are rivaling that of new construction because there's so many unknowns, so many things that could be changing. So I mentioned foundation issues earlier. We had a home in Fort Worth that the foundation had sunk 3.5 inches all the way around. So it was sunken down bad all the way around. And I know 3.5 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about a concrete slab that's supposed to be perfectly flat and it's sunk 3.5 inches all the way around, that's a big deal. And then on top of that, it had a big, heavy fireplace in the middle, and that chimney, that brick chimney, had caused it to sink there as well. So it kind of created like this donut effect. But anyways, that was obviously going to be a very expensive fix and drive the cost up considerably. Also, with these remodels, you're going to see structural changes that have to occur. These structural changes can sometimes be quite costly. So think about it like this. Let's say we're working on a house that's 2 stories and we're wanting to remove some walls on the first story. Well, we have to structurally support this second floor to be able to stay up. And so when we're doing that, that obviously incurs a lot of costs. There's a lot of labor involved. The materials are more expensive, may require steel beams, depending on the span, and maybe it'll be done with LVLs, but at the same time, those specialty lumber like that is very expensive and much more expensive than it would be just to get, just regular 2x material. So that always comes in. And then lastly, the electrical and plumbing may need to be updated. So you think about, like, we do a lot of work in Plano. Well, a lot of those houses were built back in the 70s and even early 80s, but the plumbing in there is antiquated. The electrical work may be antiquated. And so when we get in there, often we're faced with the decision of, do we leave what is here and run potential fire hazard risk, not meeting code compliance, stuff like that? Or do we spend the money to upgrade the system? And oftentimes it's required, you're going to be in a position where you have to upgrade the entire system. And so that's always a consideration as well. How old is the electrical? How old is the plumbing? What kind of condition is it in? Because even if it's not that old, but it's not in really good condition, it could be a problem. So that's always one of those considerations as well. And then those all kind of add up, incurring extra costs there. So anyways, so once you start understanding what's actually going into these projects and what's actually being done, the pricing starts to make a lot more sense. So if you found this video helpful, would love for you to explore more of our videos on how we approach remodeling here in North Texas. And if you have a real project that you want to talk about, reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you.